So this is the iPhone 17, and today we're going to do a speed test comparison against the Apple iPhone 15 to see how much faster this phone has gotten over the couple of years. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and let's go ahead and begin this video with a boot up test in 3, 2, and go and see which one can get there first. Now, the Apple iPhone 17 does feature the Apple A19 chipset, and it is coupled with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now that's up over the Apple A16 Bionic, which Apple carried over from the 14 series, and we do have ourselves 6 gigabytes of RAM. So the 15 was a nice, smooth design update, but it didn't really get a lot in terms of the overall upgrades, like compared to the 17, which has ProMotion. It has the center stage camera. So the 17 definitely a bigger update for sure for those of you holding out. However, they don't have a pink option this year. So those of you who do like pink, this was a pretty great option for you on the 15, but both of them booted up at a similar clip right there. Now, when it comes to unlocking these phones, both of them do use Face ID. However, I'm going to be skipping it for this video because this is my wife's phone. She loaned for this speed test. So shout outs to her for making this video possible. But I don't have my face to unlock on that one. But they both do that the same, and generally kind of scrolling through iOS 26 is going to give you essentially the same exact experience here. Let's go back to YouTube there to get our green wallpaper. But scrolling through is pretty much the same except for one major change, which is going to be the ProMotion display. Now, where you'll really notice the ProMotion display is when scrolling articles, scrolling on App Library, kind of like animations do look a little bit smoother overall. And generally, this phone just kind of feels like the display experience you would have had on the iPhone 16 Pro. So big upgrade in that area as well. But here on the 15, it does run pretty smooth as well. Kind of going through different pages here, you'll see a pretty nice experience. Even though this is 60 Hertz, the 15 and the 16 were still pretty snappy phones. They just animations wise do look a little bit slower. Scrolling does look a little bit slower, but navigating the operating system is not too different from the iPhone 17, although it is less smooth. And going through these control areas, when you add these on pretty much all iPhones, this does not look super smooth. So that's one area to point out. But if you see here and we go into Geekbench 6 before we get into the test, you'll see that on 26.0.1 here, we do have 4.25 gigahertz clock speed on 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, if you take a close look here, this is 3.46 gigahertz, so that's nearly a whole gigahertz faster clock speed. But the real kicker is that this has 6 gigs of RAM, so the 15 has no support for Apple Intelligence, which, while it was being pushed a lot on the 16, is still, to me, behind on the competition. The iPhone 17 is definitely more of a future-proofed phone than the iPhone 15 and starts with a better base storage at the same price. Alright guys, so we've arrived at the app test. Let's make sure everything is closed out before we begin. We'll go into calendar and you can see not a big deal of difference there. Again, remember, these are both rocking the same iOS software. And you'll see a little bit slower there on the iPhone 15. We'll go to stopwatches, timers, and world clock. We'll swipe up out of there. Animation doesn't look too bad there. For the 15, we'll go into calculator, and there is a crack on her screen protector. So if you see a little line through the screen, I don't know if you see it, but it's there. If we scroll through here, you'll see not a big deal of difference when loading these pages. So the 15 is still holding its own. Let's get out of here. We'll go into ChatGPT. I could see why some people would still want to upgrade their 15 if they want the smoother display. What the heck am I doing? If they want a smoother display and they want the center stage camera, there is quite a few things. Let's swipe out of here. We'll go into Grok. That still make it a worthy upgrade. Apple Intelligence support, 6.3 inch screen, reduced bezels, bigger and longer battery life, ProMotion display. I mean, it does have quite a few things on offer here. Let's go over here and we'll go to Hype. And we'll kind of just go over here to music and we'll scroll down and let's swipe up out of there. We'll go into Amazon on both. That was faster on the 17. If we swipe out, we'll go into Groupon. And because this is her phone, I will not be opening social media apps for this speed test particularly. So you can see right there, I think that was for sure the iPhone 17. But this is one of those upgrades that I'm like, you know, you probably don't need to go ahead and do this one unless you do want many of those features that I mentioned. But the 17 so far does look to be loading most of these things faster. That was noticeably quicker there. We'll go into Subway Surfers, pulling ahead by a good margin there. So we are talking about speed in this video, speed test after all. And ProMotion and the inclusion of 8 gigs of RAM and the upgraded CPU, I actually think while the 15 is still majority a similar phone, the 17 is still a worthy upgrade. It's not a huge upgrade like the ones coming from like 12, 13. Those are huge upgrades, but this is definitely still an upgrade over the 15. Like if I was using the 15, I would probably just sell it and get the 17 at this point, mostly because I love the ProMotion display, but not everybody really cares. So that's the big one. I think with these two, that ProMotion is the big deal. Let's go into Call of Duty. And you'll see as we do launch into Call of Duty here, it does look like the iPhone 17 is in the lead. Yep, the iPhone 17 took the win there. Once you're in the game, both of them are iPhones. They're pretty well optimized. These are both aluminum bodies as well. They do pretty good in gaming, no matter which one you go with here. You'll get better GPU performance on the 17 though, that's for sure. You'll also get a little bit quicker editing as well and significantly improved camera, especially on the front. You'll see Geekbench 6 here loads first on the right. Let's come out of there. 3D Mark, first on the left. Speed Test Net, first on the left. And iMovie, that was first on the left. So overall, it did look to me like the 17 was just a little bit quicker in most of the base apps by the animation, just looked like it's launching things a little bit faster. But it pulled ahead more noticeably in the gaming department. So as you push the phone more, I think the 17 this year is closer to like a pro phone in performance. So it's a great year. It really is a great value proposition year for this base 17. And you're even seeing it against phones that aren't that old, like the iPhone 15 here. Let's get on to the RAM management now. Okay guys, so as I go through these right here, you'll see that these are opening pretty amazingly smooth. And it just, to me, it just boggles my mind because I'm so used to a 60 hertz on the base iPhone. I feel like I'm holding a pro. Even in the RAM management, this is like amazing. So I'm so happy to say that for those of you who have been waiting it out, who always thought the pros were overkill for you, but you do want some of the neat ProMotion features and just kind of like a faster performance, this is really great. It really is. And I could see why a lot of these articles out there are saying the 17 is the one to get this year. It really is for a lot of people. That is no joke. Let's see how the iPhone 15 does. You can immediately see that little bit of a slower animation. I think casual users still won't care about this. Us tech fans, we don't notice. And 6 gigabytes of RAM, a little bit not looking nice on that last one. But no substantial reloads. We did refresh the Amazon homepage. But look at this, even with 6 gigs of RAM, while it does look a little bit slower coming in, we did reload App Store. 1 reload so far, and that could have just been a refresh as well. Held them pretty well. So the 15 is no slouch in holding these applications. 6 gigs still seems to do pretty well, especially on these more recent phones. So I think 15 and 16 users are still doing okay in the RAM department, but it definitely doesn't look quite as smooth as this one right here. This one is just so obviously nicer with the ProMotion. I hope the camera is picking that up in this 60 FPS video. Let me know if you are seeing that difference down below. And so my final results are in for Geekbench 6. We do have a 8,938 on the 17, although I have seen higher in my previous tests, probably because I opened a bunch of apps first here, but 3552, and you can see that this is a bit higher than the 16 Pro Max, but this isn't too far behind an iPad Pro M2. So just a little bit under that, about 1,000 points. So this is getting up there for a base model phone. Pretty substantial. You can see my other scores, 90, 80, I was able to get. So I have done higher, but you can see on the single core that the iPhone 15 still does pretty well at 2528 with a multi-core score of 6116, so about 2,000 points less. So not horrible for the 15. It's still a pretty solid performer in both single and multi-core. So I think you have another 2 years or 3 years left. Probably more like 2 of solid performance on the iPhone 15. So pretty good there, but the 17 has boosted ahead in that benchmark. Let's go ahead and take a look at 3D Mark now, and we'll go to Wildlife Extreme here, and we'll run this here, and we'll see what they are capable of producing in the area of graphics. So I'll be back when they are done. And our final Wildlife Extreme scores are in, and you can see that we do have a substantially lower score on the 15. If you're wondering why does that screen look so dim, I was wondering the same thing myself. I think it auto dimmed itself due to heat or something, because I have the brightness way up here, and look, it's not moving at a certain point. I think there's a feature that protects it from overheating. But you'll see that just based on that alone, you can see we're doubling the performance here on the Wildlife Extreme final result, doing better than 87% of devices on the market, whereas the 15 can only manage to do better than 43, especially now that we benchmarked it after doing the speed test. That probably gave me worse scores, so it potentially can do better than that. But at the end of the day, the 15, you've seen as I'm pushing it here in these benchmarks, it's not able to actually give us much once you start pushing it, so it will throttle back. You can see right here 104 at the top temperature, so that's not the worst. But you can see the 17 staying substantially cooler right there than this one over here. Although both these are aluminum, so they don't tend to generate too much heat. Neither of them get too hot, but the 15 can get a little bit toastier than the 17. So I do have the iPhone Air there, which I'm still working on videos for. Let's go ahead and just launch the cameras and see what we get for both phones. If I go ahead and launch the cameras there, not a substantial difference. Hitting that 2 times, not a substantial difference. You also have the same 10 times zoom, so no real upgrade in the zoom department here. Also the same software, and both can do 4K 60 videos. The real upgrade comes on the front-facing camera from the 17 if you're coming from the 15. So let's go ahead and give you my final verdict here. The 15 was a pretty powerful phone using the A16 Bionic. It basically was using similar to what the iPhone 14 Pro was using. But at this point, the 8 gigabytes of RAM on the newer phones is really pushing these new ones ahead. But really the ProMotion, the increased CPU performance, the newer base models are a lot more like Pro phones in performance, except that they don't have a Pro chip. So I think this here is an even better value than the 15. But if you are looking to upgrade, it's probably not a needed thing right now. But if you did, you probably wouldn't be disappointed either. That's how I look at these two. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts on how these perform down below in the comments. And I'll catch you on the next speed test comparison and should you buy upgrade type videos. So stay tuned for those. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.